For the first time ever, I made my way across the country to attend Anime Los Angeles. I was invited to judge their renowned cosplay contest and, of course, jumped at the chance both to see some incredible cosplay performances, but also the Pacific Ocean for the very first time. But I did not expect to be peeking at the Pacific through smoke. Yeah, we flew into Los Angeles the day after the LA fires started. So really quick, it feels really weird to be making a silly goofy anime convention vlog that was recorded the weekend the city that it was in was literally on fire. We were never anywhere near the fire, and in the darkest times, we need silly goofy. But because this is also something I make money on, I wouldn't feel right telling this story without doing some good, so I will be donating the AdSense that this video generates in its first 30 days to the Pasadena Humane Society to support their efforts in reuniting animals with their owners. There's also a donation link in the description if you'd like to contribute on your own. By you even watching this video, you are helping those affected. Again, we were in no danger at any point, just wanted to make that very clear, but with that context in mind, here's how my very first West Coast con went. I was a guest at this convention, so the con picked us up at the airport in a giant van and took us down to the Long Beach Convention Center, which is a pretty big convention center, but it only has one attached hotel, the Hyatt. But we, along with all the other guests and most of the staff, it seemed, were in the Westin Long Beach across the street. And after settling into our nice room, I had one anxiety point that I needed to settle. I went to this con carry-on only with a single cosplay, my Kasane Tato, who I'd managed to fit entirely into my carry-on, including her wig. So I was anxious to see if my wig was okay.
Look, she's perfect. Look.
Oh, looks good.
She made it perfect.
She did. She made it perfect.
This is why you use fast shape.
Not a hair out of place. I had recently redone her dumb anime bangs, so I was mostly worried about those, but they looked incredible, so I plopped her next to the TV, which had cable, apparently. I just haven't seen that in a while. That was just interesting. And because we were still on East Coast time, we took our Wednesday as our stay up as late as we can day, and only made it to 9 p.m. before passing out. Thursday started with an absolute treat. The con was offering the guests free breakfast at the hotel, and I was expecting, like, you know, your standard hotel breakfast, which I love, by the way. I love a breakfast buffet, but this was not that. This was order whatever you want from the fancy breakfast menu. Joe got a breakfast burrito, and I could not resist the pancakes. It was only Thursday, and this is already crazy nice treatment. But with tummies full of free breakfast, I got into my casual version of Tato and headed over to the con. Now, at first, I was a little worried about walking from the Westin to the convention center because I'm not familiar with this area, but it truly is across the street because once you cross, you're met with the Rainbow Bridge, and the name will make sense later. But then the line to get in was right there. And I already had my badge because they just gave it to me at the Westin, but we still needed Joe's, and the con staff told me to skip the security line. So we did, which was pretty nice because the only thing I ever heard complaints about was the security, because apparently they were being really strict about props on day one, but eventually loosened up those restrictions as the weekend progressed. But we grabbed Joe's badge, and I immediately got my first ribbon.
Oh my god! Thank you!
Yes, ALA is a very ribbon-heavy con, but the Long Beach Convention Center's atrium? Is this an atrium? It's kind of shallow for an atrium, but you know, their convention center-y part with pretty windows. It is pretty, but it's not super big, but it also never really felt super crowded either. It's also 2 floors, so I think that helps, but this is where we discovered a really cute decoration detail in that throughout the con, there are pictures of cosplayers at previous ALAs with both the cosplayers and the photographers credited on the print. These are fun, and I wish more cons would do this. Also, shout out to the person who just unpromptedly fixed this one. Behavior at this con was 10 out of 10, by the way. Y'all just, like, know how to act. Anyway, it was time to check out the dealer's room, which, yeah, is open during the day on Thursday. Most cons that I go to don't even open up the dealer's room until Friday, but it was late morning on Thursday, and it was already open. And it was just really cool to see a lot of vendors and artists that I've never seen before. Because on the East Coast, you know, we tend to see the same people a lot at every con we go to, but this is a whole other coast with all different people, so this was really cool.
Chocolate. I'm buying some of those. Are some of those almonds? I'm buying me some chocolate. I'm buying me some chocolate.
But then it was time for the one thing I had scheduled to do for the day, an autograph signing. Since I had never been to this coast before, I had no idea how many people would know who I was. While when we walked up, it didn't seem like anybody was there, the staff apparently holds the line for people away from the tables to give that person time to set up, so I did have a little bit of a line. It wasn't a ton of people. I had plenty of time to be silly goofy. But this is where I learned the deep-rooted importance of ribbons at ALA. I have never seen someone break out a ribbon tackle box before, and I saw a lot of people do that here. I did hear many people claim that ALA is the original Ribbon Con, and though it may have actually originated, like all things in Western fandom culture, from the sci-fi community, ALA is maybe the most aggressive Ribbon Con I've ever been to, because I got a lot of ribbons.
Amazing! Oh my gosh.
I did have a great time getting to meet people and hear about their cosplays, and I have so much more to say about these autograph signings, but I'll save that for the big one that happened on Sunday. For now, we went to explore the con. So the Long Beach Convention Center has this lower floor of the theater part of it, which the con was calling Akihabara Seaside, and this is where a lot of the costume contest back-end stuff would be happening. The judging room, as well as cosplay repair, and the green room for contestants was all here. But also the game room was down here, and we got really excited about this tatami mat that was in the game room.
Don't put your shoes on it.
How authentic.
How cool! I've never seen a tatami mat at a con before.
Me either.
Shalon is back. Shalon told us no one else knew she was Shalon.
Old players.
Oh, Maid Cafe. What? Oh!
Shout out Aquarius.
Shout out, we love them. Take a step, let's run faster to the stage. Our journey isn't over, it's a new age.
And if you're a person that's been going to cons for many years, you might be getting some nostalgic feely feels about this area, because I certainly did. This spot reminded me so much of hotel cons, meaning the small little anime conventions of the early to mid 2000s that were usually located within a single hotel. But it later became clear that Hotel Con was exactly the intention of this space. It's not something that maybe everyone noticed or appreciated, but for the people that did, this little space was really special, and I was glad it's where I'd primarily be when judging got started up. After checking in with the Masquerade office and meeting the organizers, my duties were complete for the day, so we headed back to the hotel to change, with hopes of eating near the ocean. And here's how my badge was looking at the end of Thursday. It had gotten to the point where I stopped even putting ribbons on because that shit was getting cumbersome and I didn't want to have to deal with an already giant badge getting bigger. Call me lame all you want, we all have things we are not willing to deal with all day.
I had to duct tape them because they can come apart. Oh, and I got this one. I put this one here.
But we headed off to the pier for dinner, and as we were crossing the street, something really scary happened. Everyone's phones went off again. And previously, the emergency alerts were just air quality warnings, telling us to wear masks outside or to avoid being outside, but this time, the alert said to evacuate Long Beach. And we weren't in the convention center at this point, but even outside, everything got quiet. Everyone was looking down at their phones, they were pulling up the fire maps, and everybody was just kind of confused because the fires were nowhere near Long Beach, and we could not even smell or see the smoke. And we knew that the winds were blowing the fire westward, so how had it gotten to the point that Long Beach needed to be evacuated? And from what I heard inside the halls, artists and vendors started packing up, but then the false alarm came through. This alert apparently went out to all of Los Angeles by mistake, and I wasn't there for this, but I had multiple people tell me that when the false alarm came through, the entire con erupted in applause. But since we knew we were safe now, we made it to Parker's Lighthouse for some calamari in view of the Queen Mary and the beautiful sunset over the Pacific Ocean.
Vlogging.
Oh yeah, get the sunset over the calamari.
Beautiful.
Let me move the f***ing... Do you want lemon on that? I'm gonna lemon it while I film. Okay.
Aesthetic lemon.
God, that's such a nice shot. I also at some point thought that the sun rises in the west, and I was talking to Joe about how, oh, if we wake up too early because the time change is different, we should go see the sunrise over the Pacific Ocean. And I didn't realize that the reason why I thought that the sun rises in the west is because of Mary Masdur's prophecy in Game of Thrones, where she tells Dany when the sun rises in the west and sets in the east. And that just stuck in my head more than the fact that the sun sets in the west.
I apologize to this sauce for not getting it in the shot because it's delicious. That is way too much cheese though. No, that's good. That's too much cheese.
Look at him. If we come back to this con and I have my Okarun and Momo cosplays, I want pictures of us as Okarun and Momo on the goose boats.
Swan boats.
The goose boats. Look, the Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
Oh wait, let's take a picture of us. You know what they don't have though? Rocks. Ain't no rocks. And at this point, the pedestrian bridge we'd crossed to get to the pier was full of people doing photo shoots, and we were just going back to the room, but as we were crossing the street towards the west end, Diana, the Diana of Hallmat, stopped me in the street to ask if I wanted to go be on a panel about international cosplay contests with her. And I was like, sure, why not? So I ended up on an extra panel.
Just put that anywhere. Listen.
Which was chill because it was kind of just a Q&A panel about international costume contests, but it included Chikupi and Team Kirai Cosplay, who were the most recent World Cosplay Summit Team USA. But with that, I saw an Eevee, who did their civic duty, found out that the Rocky Mountains grow very good truffles, and went to bed. And you know, the last thing I want to have happen to me while I'm guesting at a con is getting a phone call from an unknown number, assuming it's the con staff, and picking up only to realize that it's just another robocall. And if you hate that too, today's sponsor, Delete Me, is here to help. If you are getting robocalls, it's likely that your phone number has made its way into the hands of a data broker. These are shady companies that are buying up and selling off your data. And much worse than robocalls, your data being available to anyone to buy can lead to really scary stuff like being harassed or stalked or becoming the target of phishing scams. But Delete Me can help you keep your private information actually private by removing your data from hundreds of data broker sites. But then they also actively monitor those sites to make sure your information doesn't get put back up. I've had a Delete Me account for a couple months now, and so far they have reviewed over 2,000 listings for me, and in the first month alone, they removed 42 of those. It's crazy to think one person's data can go that far, and it's kind of scary, honestly, but I feel better knowing that I can trust Delete Me to help me remove that information. It's also really cool to check out my Delete Me reports and see how many of these sites are actually Sarah-free. So if you want to remove your personal data from the web, you can check out my link in the description, use the QR code on screen, or use my code Sarah20 to get 20% off Delete Me international plans. Friday started with, again, amazing, delicious, free breakfast. Thank you so much for breakfast. I got an egg sandwich today because I was going to need protein. But this is also where the trip truly became a Song of Ice and Fire, because our home of Atlanta was now covered in a blanket of snow. And we're missing Joe's nephews playing in the snow. Joe got into his now iconic wise old man cosplay without the beard because he doesn't like wearing it. And we headed down for the second autograph session of the weekend. And this one was also pretty chill. Not too many people this day either. Joe's new backpack. He finally has an Ida bag. Do you know the name of the artist that those are from?
I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Kehasuk.
Okay.
Kahasuk, something, I don't know.
And then
And
we've
then
got
the Stormlight ones are from the Brandon Sanderson store.
And then this one we got yesterday. I miss my cat.
Oh, hi. But I did get to see some really cool cosplays, which made me even more excited to get started with judging, which was up next. So first, let me introduce you to my 3 fellow judges, who I was just excited to get to meet myself. In the Baldur's Gate cosplay is Aethel Artistry, an incredible cosplayer who actually got to create a look for Evie Oddly for All Stars 8. She apparently did the cake look and the lights on the mushroom, so suffice it to say, I was impressed. Oh yeah, and they also currently work for NASA making spacesuits. So you know, they're really f***ing cool. Then we had Siler and Darling of Ikosu, a cosplay couple with 15 years of experience, with their highest honor probably being that they were official judges for World Cosplay Summit USA. What I'm showing you here is the actual prejudging process. I did ask each person if it was okay to film them, but I will keep the audio private to them. But I will tell you a little bit of how this process works and how different judges have different styles. I basically go in hem first with every cosplayer. We do also always ask if it's okay to touch the cosplay and get up close, which most everybody expects and accepts. However, it is okay to say no to that, which we did have one person do. I won't tell you who, but in cases like that, then we just ask that person to pick up their own hems and show them to us, or turn around their own cuffs, that kind of stuff. Why are we doing all that? Well, craftsmanship is judged on a few things, but the biggest one is cleanliness. So when I flipped this hem on this Grim Grimoire cosplayer, I couldn't even tell where the stitch was. So I knew there was some impressive work going on. This was a blind hem, and not just any blind hem. A blind hem so perfect I couldn't even tell what it was at first. I could literally go on and on about good hems, but this is the kind of thing I'm looking at. If I flip over that skirt and it's a raw edge turned over once, or just raw in general, I'm taking off points. And weirdly, normally when I say points, I'm talking about meaningless, nebulous points, but oh no. At ALA, we were required to use an actual numbers system and give a score to each contestant, which was then inputted into a spreadsheet on the fly by the cosplay staff. I have never been this impressed by the organization of a contest. And this was just day one. I could already tell that this was a very tight ship run by people who knew exactly what they were doing. And while I'm a hem first person, Zyler and Darling were over there studying the build books and then getting up to check on the work at the end. And Aethel seems to be a very great listener, which is not my strong suit. My brain works one thing at a time. I look at and then I ask questions. But somebody checking that build book thoroughly is important, because the other primary thing we look at is difficulty, aka the variety of techniques used. And this Yoimiya is a really great example because they had done a ton of different techniques on this one cosplay. There were several different techniques done for detailing, including this incredible beaded sleeve tattoo that I was told was a yes and on my 01 tattoo, and it very much so was a and, because there were some really complicated sequin techniques in there. On top of that, they showed off impeccable wig work and even some prop work too, and they were only in journeyman. Especially in high-level contests, the more techniques you show off, the better. Go for the big 3, sewing, armor, and wigs, and if you show off even 1 or 2, you will be placed higher than someone who just did 1.
Did you learn how to do anything? I don't know here.
Also, at some point we got a lunch break, and when we came back, there was this thing in the room already. It was a sandworm apparently, and we let it have popcorn babies. And we thought it would be funny to chant worm as the people walked in, so I started to film, and then I was just gonna ask permission after they came in.
Worm, 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 worm. Oh! Worm.
It was a child, so I stopped recording, but this child was actually just a model, as the mom was the creator of both the cosplay and the worm. And yes, this is always allowed. As long as the person that made that cosplay is present, they do not actually have to be the one wearing that cosplay. Though mom was very much so involved in the performance, but you'll see that later. Anyway, we got to see some really incredible builds after lunch, including this has-been hotel cosplayer with a working violin.
I love it.
Wow.
And one common judge question we almost always ask is, what's your favorite part of your costume? But for this Baldur's Gate group, Ikasu flipped that question to, what's your favorite part of each other's costumes?
Really just so
perfect.
Yeah, he loves your pants.
Literally everything that you see on here, math. Math, math, math.
And I am absolutely using that question in the future. But back to the craftsmanship stuff. I'll use this incredible Twisted Wonderland cosplay as an example. So this cosplay looks amazing all on, right? But this thing has layers. So we asked them to take the jacket off, and if you're wearing a jacket and you have fully lined that thing, the big dick move is to take your jacket off in prejudging, especially when there's even more incredible work under that thing. This cosplay in particular also really blew us away, as they were also only in the journeyman category, and tailoring like this is really difficult with all these perfectly done details. We were all very impressed. The day also finished out with this Miku and Kaito pair with a particularly impressive wig, but even more impressive, Kaito's jacket was perfect, but it was apparently self-drafted, and yes, we do take if you patterned it into account, and patterning out a jacket is incredibly difficult. So I was very impressed with these two. But today was primarily the novices with a few journeymen and masters mixed in, and most of the masters entries were coming tomorrow. So with a long day of judging done, I passed the hell out. Saturday was basically entirely dedicated to judging with very few breaks, so we got our fancy breakfast again, and I got a burrito this time because I needed max protein. But Joe got the chicken and waffles, and I was very jealous. But we headed over to the con to catch the morning Masquerade meeting, and this is where I saw the full breadth of how well run this contest is. This was essentially a PowerPoint meeting for all of the contestants to get them all on board on how the day would go. They introduced the staff, including the stage manager, who later complimented me on using Jenny Nicholson as a verb in my Heroes of Cosplay video. He apparently worked with her at Disney, so like how cool is that? But I do think I used her as an adjective. This is also where I found out that they feed the contestants food before the contest. Like they get them catering. What? But after the meeting, it was marathon judging time. We saw 2 CLs back to back, 2 transforming pretty pink dresses, and this incredible duo from the Count of Monte Cristo, whose costumes were so perfect in every way that we could not find a single flaw. Everything was lined, there wasn't a stitch out of place, the wig was incredible, not a hair out of place, and then they showed us their incredible molded and cast heart that literally had a real alfresco oil painting on it. And for anybody interested in craftsman contests, here's a couple things I do not care about as a judge. And I'm not pointing this at anyone in particular, but I say this because you always get limited time in prejudging. So here's information that is a waste of your time. I do not need to know anything about the character or why you love them, unless you have done some original design choice that has to do with that character. I don't need to know anything about them other than what they look like. I also don't really need to know what fabric you use, unless it's like pertinent to a technique like real leather techniques or real wool felting or real silk painting. Like we as judges can probably just look at you and tell what fabric you used, so you don't need to tell us. What's more important is that you show us the things we cannot see. If you made split crotch drawers to be historical, like show me them. And if you didn't make something, go ahead and tell me what it is so I can ignore it. Like, yeah, the more you hand make, the better, but it is good practice to just walk in and be like, the only thing I didn't make was my shoes and my underwear. Also, please tell me if you patterned it. Patterning is so difficult, and it is one of, like, it's literally the foundation of a cosplay. And if you had to figure that out yourself, that is so impressive. But yeah, I was so incredibly impressed by all of the cosplays the West Coast had to show me, especially with today being mostly masters. The builds got even more incredible, meaning the decisions got even harder to make. But, and I can't show you this part, after we'd seen every entry, that's where that spreadsheet came in clutch. The numbers we had input were not law. It wasn't like whoever was at the top of the list was the winner, but the spreadsheet was there to literally put our tops at the top of the spreadsheet to remind us all of our favorites. And after a long discussion that involved more arguing over whether or not soda is better in a glass or a can, we had our craftsmanship winners decided, but we'd have to wait to see the stage show to place those performance awards and decide on the coveted Best in Show. And I haven't mentioned this yet, but the winner of Best in Show at ALA also wins a trip to Holiday Matsuri next year and gets a straight shot to compete in the Winter Cosplay Championship, which is a big deal considering you have to pass a jury round to get into the WCC.
There's a lot of people over here now.
But with judging finally complete, I had just enough time to shove the other half of that breakfast burrito down my gullet and finally get into my entire Kasane Teto cosplay.
Oh, my boo. Here we go.
Teto is ready.
Ignore my dumb little bag. Teto doesn't have any pockets.
And I got back to the green room just in time to see the spread they had set out for the contestants. But I was quickly ushered up to the judge's desk.
Where are we going right now?
To the judging desk.
Oh, fun. Yeah, take me there.
Hell yeah.
Take me there.
There'll be cool things to see. We have a full pre-show this year.
I have not even... Ooh.
And now's a good time to get B-roll.
Ooh, yes, that's why I said, please take me here. I have not been in here yet.
It is a 30,000 person theater. Last year we filled up about halfway of the second level and all of the first level. We are expecting to fill both the first and second level this year. Potentially giving out balcony seats.
Is that where we're sitting?
Yep.
Oh.
I was the first to get in there, so I got to take a couple clips of the crowd coming in. Shout out to these people who waved at the camera. But eventually, the other judges arrived, and the crowd filled the theater almost entirely. Like, they filled up the middle balcony, but not the top balcony. But wow, ALA. I am impressed, and I am so honored to be part of a contest that is so loved by its community. But now, I get to introduce you to my breakfast buddy and the MC for this contest, Ezra Weiss. We got to know each other over fancy breakfast throughout the weekend, and I am glad we did, because Ezra is point blank period the best MC I have ever seen. And while he's not a cosplayer, he clearly has so much love and respect for the contestants in this show. He knows his job is to hype that crowd up and keep the show flowing, and he did that so well. I know how much I hate bad MCs, so I gotta shout out a good one when I see it. There was also a moment of respect for the fires, and he led that moment with the weight that it needed. Also, please do remember that there were people in this contest affected by these fires. This was their moment to shine, and shine they did. These were some of the best performances I have ever seen as well. And this was definitely the most I've ever seen in one Masquerade, because there were actually very few people who chose to just do a walk-on, which was also an option. And this group did successfully pull off their skit on the second try. And here's the thing I also really like to see in cosplay skits: using the choreography of the skit to show off the costume. Like, they started this by showing off that robe with the run, and of course, revealed to the dress underneath it. But yeah, like, flip your cape if you have one. Twirl that twirly skirt. Do a big jumpy in your very well-patterned coat. Patterned for big jumpies. If you've got a giant impractical Monster Hunter weapon, don't swing it probably, because that might be dangerous, but brandish it. Brandish it good. The audience was also so into it. Some people incorporated audience participation into their skit, like this Ivysaur asked the audience to pull out their phone flashlights to be like photosynthesis for Ivysaur. And this was just cool. Look at this. Look at all these people doing this for them. And of course, every dance performance had pen light support. And as you would expect, the crowd loved the child. And yep, that is Worm Mom. In the worm, being the worm. Unofficial Best Parenting Award right here. Also, this Castlevania skit was the weirdest, funniest, most creative, and incredible. Like, I don't have the words to describe how good this skit is. I can play you a couple little clips. but I can't play the whole thing for copyright, but I will link this entire skit in the description because you need to see it. It is the funniest thing I have ever seen. Like, look at what's happening. Yes, this is a Twilight joke. They did the Twilight baseballs. So I had also never judged performances before, and we were once again using that number scoring system, but there were only a few precious seconds between contestants, so that gave us very little time to get those numbers down. And like, again, we were literally passing the score sheets to the cosplay staff who were inputting those numbers on the fly. Like, this was an incredible challenge of attention span, especially when we had marathoned judged that whole day and my body was still a little bit on East Coast time and I was running on caffeine and fumes, so it was like numbers, 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 pass, numbers, 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 pass. It was crazy. Also, this last skit, this made me laugh so hard. I was not expecting the staff guy to die. There were also a lot of kabuki streamers in this show, and Joe didn't catch this, but somebody gave Ezra streamers.
All right, judges, it's in your hands now. Let's give them a warm send-off as they leave to make their final decisions. Bye, judges!
But with all the skits done, we were ushered into the back rooms where Zyler became a chicken.
Do it one more time, please.
Meanwhile, on stage, Joe got to watch the super cool halftime show by Core Dance Group, and I'm kind of mad that I didn't get to see it, but the other judges and I were feverishly arguing over those performance awards, and why soda is better in cans. And while I'd actually been emailed the list of awards weeks ago, my canned soda-charged brain had to be reminded that there is actually no best performance, and that the best drama, best dance, and best comedy are the best performance awards. Apparently, they have 3 so that they don't have to try to compare a dramatic skit to a hilarious one. They just award both instead. Craftsmanship also is not taken into account for these awards. The only award that accounts for both craftsmanship and performance is Best in Show. But we also needed to choose our honorable mentions at this point, which is ALA's version of Judges Awards. We each got to pick an honorable mention for a reason, and we got to pick what the reason was for. But once we had all of that decided, we passed through the back rooms once again and into backstage, where the mic was passed to us judges. And first up was our honorable mentions. Like Judges Awards, these went to cosplayers who impressed us for one reason or another, but were barely beaten out for one of the other awards. And for mine...
So next up we have the honorable mention for Best Hem. And it goes to number 31, Find Familiar.
I got to give it to that amazing blind hem. Next up was the Performance Awards, and there were a bunch of these, so I'll hit you with the highlights.
The award for Best Dance Choreography. This award will be given. It does not go to him. No, it goes to number 25. Let our feelings become one.
This skit really fully embodied Idol Dance and brought the Love Live energy to the stage. And best character was, well... Best Drama went to this incredible Howl's Moving Castle skit that had used their stage ninjas in incredibly creative and hilarious ways, while still bringing the drama you would expect from a Ghibli skit. And Best Comedy was no contest.
This was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It goes to number 13, Follow the Bloody Red.
Craftsmanship Award started with a really cool award that I haven't seen before. 2 representatives from the Costumers Guild West joined us on stage to announce their pick for the Promising Novice Award, which gives that winner a free trip to Costume College, which is a historical fashion education-focused con over on the West Coast. And we didn't get to pick who won this. It was up to them.
Our award goes to number 20, Lucifer Morningstar!
But we were very happy with this pick because this novice impressed us as well. For our runner-up novice and best novice awards, they were people that showed off a whole bunch of different techniques, and our journeyman runner-up was the same.
Only thing I really need to tell you about why these cosplays deserve this award is their shoes were entirely handmade.
Moving on to Best Journeyman, this year's Best Journeyman Division cosplayer was number 5, Playful Land's Miraculous Masquerade.
The award for runner-up in Master Division is actually someone we had to bump up from Journeyman because their work was so fantastic. It is Frolicking Fireworks!
Our next award is to Best Master. And our Best Master goes to number 33, Hunter!
So our Best in Show will also receive the title of ALA Delegate for the Winter Cosplay Championship, which comes with an automatic entry, all expense paid trip to Holiday Monstery in Orlando, Florida!
We chose this award for a number of reasons, and before we bring them out, we want to say what those reasons were. When it comes into craft, it's always impressive to see a wide variety of skills, not just sewing, not just wigs, not just makeup, not just props, but all of it. And this entry had that.
Everything was ambitious, everything was so well executed.
It also had probably one of the best wigs I have seen in my entire life in person.
And that performance was incredible, like for real. The performance was breathtaking, it had everything, so, all right.
The ALA 20 Masquerade Best in Show and ALA Delegate to the Winter Cosplay Championship is number 7, the Counting Monte Cristo!
I also ran around stage for a little bit, getting clips of a couple people being really happy and really in their feely feels.
Congrats. These are so stunning. That is literally the best wig I've ever seen in my entire life. Your hair's right off your body, Paige.
I was like, I'm gonna hold it in, and then I was like, started crying. I don't even care.
Beautiful work. Beautiful job. So well done. Good.
She's like my child.
Good.
Right here.
This fish, y'all. Congrats. Y'all did so great.
Thank you so much.
Y'all were great.
I think they got runner-up.
They got runner-up masters because this is masters level work. And this fish, oh my god, this fish. Sorry, I'm just filming you crying, but you know.
She wanted to start off as novice. Yeah, and I was
You
like,
want to be a novice?
You are not a novice.
Oh my god! Now you're in. I'm sorry, you're in masters now.
Sorry about it.
Oops.
But with congratulations given and an incredible contest finished, we went to bed. Though I would not call what I did sleeping, because I had coffee at 5 p.m. to keep me going for the contest, but I rested. I laid in the bed. Anyway, now it was Sunday, which started with one final free fancy breakfast, and I got my chicken and waffles finally. I got into my second Lolita coordinate of the weekend and was ready to face the final day of the con. A pro tip for packing for a 4-day convention carry-on only: get 2 days out of one cosplay and 2 days out of the same dress. Same dress, different blouse. Same shoes, though. I only brought one pair of shoes. Though I'm sure someone is already yelling at me in the comments for wearing combat boots and how my knees are showing, but those socks are baby, so eat it! Anyway, the big thing for today was the post-mortem panel on the cosplay contest. This is a feedback panel where the contestants get to tell the staff everything they liked and didn't like. And even Joe had a few suggestions as an audience member. But then the second half of the panel is dedicated to contestants getting to get feedback or critique from the judges. And I am so happy that this con does this because this is one of the most important things to experience as a competitive cosplayer. If you do not get critique, you may never know how to improve. This was especially true for me because in my early years of competing, I spent years competing and never placing because I never entirely knew what I was doing wrong because baby Sarah thought my hot glue and craft foam armor is so cool and I'm definitely gonna win. And then I wouldn't win and I would wonder how my hot glue strings were beaten by intricately sewn dresses. But then at Anime Weekend Atlanta 2017, they actually had a feedback panel for once. And that was where, for the first time, I was told where I fell short and how to improve. And the very next contest I entered, I was bumped from novice to masters and won best in show. So I was really glad that ALA does this because getting feedback changed my trajectory as a competitor. And I truly believe that critique is the most important part of any art form when it is asked for and when it is given by fellow artists. Don't just give random people critique because you feel like it. But with that, I had one final autograph session to attend, but something terrible happened. So, as I am an old lady, a child of the 90s, a child of printed material, I had printed out the schedule they gave me on a piece of paper and had been relying on that all weekend. However, apparently at some point, my Sunday autograph session had been moved from 1:45 to 1:15. And if I'd been looking at the guidebook app, I would have known that, but I was looking at my piece of paper. So when I showed up around 1:30, while I thought I was early, I was late! And as a former marching band section leader, that meant I was 30 minutes late. And I felt really bad, especially when they told me that there were about 60 people waiting in line. But I got set up really quick and basically apologized to almost everyone for being late. And while my first 2 days of autograph sessions were pretty chill, this was the most people I had show up for one of these. I saw so many people with incredible cosplays who would say it was their absolute first, or say that I'm the reason why they got into making cosplays, or saying that they're gonna compete or want to because of me. And I often feel really weird about sharing that kind of stuff in my videos because I'm never trying to make it seem like I'm too big for my britches, you know? But I was also not the only cosplayer that was being appreciated at this booth.
The Chicky P method of the freight check on the outside there. We love to go pee.
But the overwhelming number of kind words, like somebody told me that I was a shining light in this community. Like Sunday night after this, I ended up crying in the hotel room about how special that is. And to get like personal about it, it made me cry because as a person on the internet, I get nitpicked for all kinds of stuff. And sometimes that criticism is valid, like I was saying voile wrong. But sometimes people assume my intentions or my values and get really vile over their own perception of a person that they only know through the heavily edited and manicured pieces of me that I allow to be public. But part of the internet has and always will be people being mean to you. And don't worry about me, I go to therapy to help me brush all that stuff off. And I do my best not to speak on it because, as they say, don't feed the trolls. But that stuff sticks to you, you know? It stays in your mind more than the kind words. So to have those things said in person by so many people and to physically see the amazing work done, to be reminded of older content like Ronnie's video and know that those are still helping people create cosplays that I get excited to see. Y'all made me feel like my britches fit just right. So thank you. Y'all are my shining light, and you always have been, because I even met a person who said they were around before the Strawberry Miku snowball, and I got to thank them for being there back then when the only thing that kept me going was the kind comments, fanning my little ego into the overblown air balloon that it is today.
That's how it is.
Where? Oh! You wanna, I mean, you should, I mean, you can at least bridge 4. You can do a bridge 4. Can you?
Paladin.
Thank you. Hey, nice. I've been bugging him. We've been walking behind you for like 30 feet. I was like, Joe, say something. You're wearing a Bridge 4 shirt.
Oh my god!
He is.
And that was my ALA.
Stop tattooing the engineer. It's like 2 of my favorite things are on a date or something.
Overall, it was one of the best experiences I've had at an anime convention in years. It was by far the best treatment I have had specifically as a guest, but also as a judge. It is only beaten out by the exceptional treatment I got as a competitor in the NCC. They also had free breakfast. The NCC knows how to treat people, okay? But ALA's cosplay staff was incredibly dedicated, exceptionally organized, and clearly cared so much about the experience of both the judges and all of the competitors. And while I didn't really get to do a whole lot of the con's events, the atmosphere was amazing. Again, I particularly loved the Akihabara seaside section for its nostalgic vibe, and I very much appreciate the aggressive ribbonry. I ended up with a loose stack of ribbons so big that I will be taking them to give out at other cons. Please come get a randomized ribbon at my MomoCon booth in May, I guess. And I was so blessed and honored to see the good influence that I have had across the country. And I just want to say that I have been very harsh to cons with bad costume contests on this channel. But don't you dare think that I can be won over with nice breakfasts and a trip to see the Pacific Ocean. When I judged at DreamHack 2021, you know what they gave me? Free breakfast. That year was also awkward. I wasn't even the best judge back then. Remember how I said some of that criticism is valid? But I am glad that I was mean to DreamHack, because what I heard was that they cleaned that shit up. And I'm proud of them for that. Good job, DreamHack. That is what I want to see. Change. And ALA has very little change that I would like to see. This impressed me. Sure, I wish there were a few more awards that were for both performance and craftsmanship. Like, maybe there could be a top 3 overall. I do also think the craftsman categories could be broken into media categories like sewing and armor. Though, this is a very sewing-heavy competition, and it's a juried competition, so you might think that it could be biased, but it was actually a random lottery to get into novice, and even the novices were very sewing focused. And if there's a best audio award, I think there should also be a best video award because, well, I mean, I'm biased, but anyway, I want all costume contests to be run as well as ALAs. The staff is made up of compassionate people dedicated to giving the contestants the experience they deserve for what they bring to the con, their talent. The MC treats them like they have not just as much but more right to be on that stage as he does as a professional actor, and they are validated by choosing to give them that treatment by the crowd that comes to cheer them on. This is what I want to see. I had an amazing time. I highly recommend ALA as a con, but especially for competitive cosplayers. This is a place where your hard work is not just appreciated, it is loved. There is deep-rooted love at this con for cosplay, for anime convention history, for ribbons, and for me, apparently. But way more important than me, love for its own community, as while the con did go on as planned, they were offering rollovers to those who were not able to attend due to the fires, and that's a pretty class act if you ask me. Again, if you got to the end here, then you are helping add to the AdSense money I'm going to be giving away to help get those kitties and doggies and horses back to their owners. But if you want to help this video generate more revenue, give it a like, a comment, and share it with a friend or your mom, or watch something else for me because the algorithm likes that too, and we'll send this video around more. And if you want some never-before-seen extra content, you should check out my second channel, Sarah Spaceman Surplus, where I've been posting edited versions of my Patreon streams for the last year. But if you want want to catch me actually live, or if you want to support the channel directly, you can check out my Patreon where you'll get some exclusive content like weekly live streams and monthly update videos. But again, if you're just watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, oh my god, subscribe, please, then you're supporting the channel too. So thank you. And the biggest thank you to my newest big support tier patrons, Puffin Sweets, Miss Ashen Grotto, Coco Jade, Seth, and a double C. Thanks for watching. Bye.